How do you react, or how do we react, myself included, when our plans are disrupted? Our plans are disrupted when bad things happen, or things that inconvenience us, or some bad things. Well, on Christmas, it was a great Christmas. Great Christmas Eve. We had over 2,000 people come for Christmas Eve and Christmas together. A lot of people, and so it was great to see. So with my family here, you're my family here. I also, at times, like to go back to my family in Philly on Christmas afternoon. So after the Christmas Mass are done, because I find that on Christmas Day, when I've done it a couple times, it's like the easiest day to travel in the year. There's like nobody there, easy, no problems. So Brother Alex, he took me to the airport right after 10:30 Mass. We got there about an hour and 10 minutes before, so pushing a little bit, but not bad. Then I saw there's a long line to get, to the TSA agent, checking your ID. But I get there, and for the first time, this never happened, for the first time, they put my ID in and said, the wrong birth date is on your thing here, your boarding pass. I said, well, that's never happened. How? So someone must have, when they put it in, transposed it. Instead of 75, they put 57. I said, yeah, you were born in 57. And so he said, yeah, you have to go out of line, go back up, get a new boarding pass, and then come back. So at that point, I'm not sure if you ever see me lose my patience or yell. I didn't yell, but this is me losing my patience. I said to someone on my way out, in line, I said, crazy. So that's me going nuts. All right, so, but I'm okay. So I said, focus, Father Matt, focus. Pull yourself together, because I'm in my collar. I got to represent here. All right, so I go back up, get the boarding pass. They let me in a shorter line, which wasn't really shorter, but then I'm running to the gate. I'm literally running to the gate, and then I hear over the announcement. And the gate, by the way, is like the furthest gate in the airport. And then I hear Philadelphia gate A18. It's changed to A18, so I have to switch the other way, run back to that gate, and I get there just in time. And like nobody's there, so I'm like, did they go on the airplane? So, oh no, it's delayed. Just delayed for a half hour. Okay, no problem. Delayed for a half hour. Well, this was Southwest, right? And so I didn't know at the time, and people didn't know at the time, we were part of the biggest meltdown, basically, in airline history, that I think. So it's interesting seeing the reactions of people when they had to get in a long line already to rebook their flight, when they would go on the tarmac for an hour and then have to come off the plane because the flight attendants and the pilots, their time expired. So by law, they had to then stop and come back, and they had to deplane. And then they had to go into a long line already, in which people were laying down in this line that wasn't moving to get. And then the system failed. They say, oh, by the way, our system has failed, our computers. And so you see people crying, you see people cursing, mad, going against the workers. One plane is boarding. Southwest is normally funny, and but they're saying, okay, don't push in the line. And when you get on the plane, stop pushing, stop. And I felt like God put me there just to keep people under control, because I was like walking around with my collar, just encouraging people, head nod, saying a prayer. I had to be in control myself. And by 9 p.m., after delayed all this time, it said canceled. The flight's canceled. So I got, thankfully, a flight on another airline on O'Hare the next morning. So I get there, the lift isn't working, or for me at least. I get a taxi that costs way too much money to get from there to O'Hare, because the flight's early in the morning. It was interesting, the taxi driver was from Jordan, And he said, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Here's some 2 treats, 2 desserts from Jerusalem. They're actually right from Jerusalem. So I'm thinking, this is Christmas night. I'm getting some treats from Jerusalem. Okay, I could take that. Thank you, God. But like God reminded me, and I was reminded, I think somebody else had a tough Christmas about 2,000 years ago, right? Which a lot of things happen. I get to the hotel in the morning. I closed the bathroom door because I hate night lights, and so they had a night light in it. Closed the door, got up in the morning, 5 a.m. The bathroom door is locked. I can't get in the bathroom because the cleaner before, I guess, locked it, and so when I closed it, it was locked. Anyway, so I got out. Oh, by the way, I was reading the Bible in a year, and on, you have the tray in the thing, and it said something effective. What do you do when you're inconvenienced? When inconvenience happen in your life? And I was like, yeah. I mean, at this point, it was like comedy. I'm like expecting something to happen, and so I lift the book. I forgot that I had a nice cold cup of water on the tray that I tipped over and spilled right over me. And I just kind of laughed. And but then when I thought about it, these are like easy issues. There are a lot of things that are going on in the country and in the world that's much bigger. So when I thought about it in that way, and that 2,000 years ago, God was going through this in Christ and with Mary and Joseph, that changed my perspective. Now, maybe we don't have to be so conscious in our life. Maybe we're not wearing a collar, and so we have to consciously, be on our good behavior, public good behavior. But I think the Lord is calling all of us to make sure that we act as Christians even when things are difficult, even when tough stuff happens. How do we react, and how are we going to react this new year when difficult things happen, when our plans are disrupted? You know what one part of our plan should be this new year? One plan should be always to be ready for the disruptions. Always ask God's grace. So when those disruptions happen, we're saying, okay, God, what are you teaching me here? How do you want me to respond? How do you want me to bring light into this situation? Because nothing can disrupt that plan, right? The Magi, their plans were disrupted. They were the wisest of the people considered in the world, knowing all the sciences and including astrology and everything. They're also seen as sorcerers too. That's why you have that magicians, magicians. But the Lord called them. They knew that something was going on in the sky, something different that spoke to them of a king being born and a king of the Jews. So they travel all this way. They don't have taxis or hotels or planes. They had to travel and all these inconveniences to see the newborn king of the Jews. And so first, naturally, they go to Herod because he's the king. And this is a replica of what the palace would have looked like. And so it's natural, okay, the king of the Jews, the newborn king, this great star, he'll be here in the palace in Jerusalem. But he's not there. And Herod doesn't even know what's happening. Right? If everybody knew about the star or could see the star where it was going to stop, then they would have all gathered around the manger scene or where Joseph, Mary, and Jesus were. But it said that the star came and stopped over the place where the child was. So it very well could have been where the first beginning of this was a sign in the sky with maybe 2 or 3 stars or a comet aligning, and so there's a real brightness there. But that doesn't stop over a house, right? And so that's why there's an understanding, a Jewish understanding, when God reveals himself in history, like the burning bush and other situations, that's a manifestation of an angel of God. And so there's an understanding that this is like an angel of God leading the Magi to this now house that they're in. So this would have been a little bit of time after the birth of Jesus, so now someone has given them a house to stay in. And what do? they bring gifts. Now, a female parishioner gave me this card a couple years ago and took a picture of it. It says, if there had been 3 wise women instead, diapers, formula, casserole. Mary says, perfect. Okay. But they get this non-practical gift, in a certain sense, of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Although it was going to be practical when they had to flee to Egypt and they needed gold to barter with before Joseph could sell his carpentry stuff. So you have the gold there, which symbolizes his kingship, and you have the frankincense on the left, which symbolizes his divinity. So he's God, divine, and king. And on the right is the myrrh. And that would have been used, we believe that Mary kept that and used that to prepare Jesus' body when he died. So his humanity. Those are the gifts that the Magi gave to Jesus, Mary and Joseph. And it says they also prostrated themselves before Jesus. Before this baby, these wisest people of all the world who didn't believe in a one God yet, they prostrated themselves, which means worship of this little baby. The question that comes to my mind is when we're faced with difficult situations, when we're faced with darkness, what are we going to do? Are we going to bring light into the situation? You know, there's a phrase from Caesar that King Herod was a terrible king. You know, he was an imposter. He wasn't even fully Jewish, part Jewish maybe, but he wasn't of the right line, and he was terrible. He killed several of his wives. He killed a lot of his sons. He was very paranoid. You know, he's called the Great because of the things that he built. And so Caesar says this because he's a little bit Jewish, and to keep the peace of the people, he followed some Jewish laws. So he wouldn't eat pork, right? Don't eat the pig there. So Caesar said this. He said, it's safer to be Herod's pig than Herod's son. It's safer to be Herod's pig than Herod's son. And when I came across that phrase yesterday, this phrase popped into my mind. It's safer to be a dog in the state of Illinois than an unborn child. It's safer to be a dog in the state of Illinois than an unborn child. The question that I have that comes up is, and we should ask, is even when we're faced with darkness, with dark times, what are we going to do? My encouragement is for us to bring the light of Christ. As our kids did right before Christmas when they sang Christmas carols for people in the area, from our 7th and 8th graders, as our choir did singing songs of joy. And outside, when we had the St. Gianna Shrine, at the lights there to attract people to her, our kids at the pageant, reminding us what happened 2,000 years ago. What light are we going to bring this new year? And I came across this image here. We have to choose the path in this new year. And which path are we going to choose? It says that after a dream, they were not to return to Herod. They departed for the country by another way. By another way. Which way are we going to choose this new year? Are we going to choose the light or the darkness? Sometimes we are walking in darkness, but we're called even there to bring the light of Christ there. So this year, we're faced with disruptions, with difficult situations. How are we going to react? Let's ask the Lord for the grace to react with faith, with patience, with love. Be people of the light of Christ. Mary, Mother of God, pray for us. Saint Joseph,